you want to keep it to audio?
Yeah, no, I think we're okay.
Cool. I think mine's fine as long as I have like share up over Windows.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Normally mine just starts to freak out when we've got video as well, but this seems to be okay so far.
Cool. So, my name is Michelle Mackenzie, and I am the proud CEO and owner of Reflective Line Publishing and Reflective Line Publishing Podcast. And I have with me that side.
Oh yeah, Rachael Watson, proud author of 2 fantasy novels, Forbidden Healing and The Dream Key.
Nice. I do follow you as well, and I watch all your videos.
Oh, I know. Thank you very much.
And I got your books.
I know. Thank you. Honestly, I'm so appreciative of anyone that buys and reads my books. It's what I'm here for. It's what I'm trying to do. So,
when I finished, I was like, "No, I'm gonna wait."
Yeah, I know. I've just come off drafting book 3 to come and talk to you, so I feel like I'm still kind of in that world, and I'm all mentally there. So I'm trying to be mentally here right now with you.
Writing's fun. Oh, yeah. How are you finding the writing and the self-publishing?
I love it. I don't know if you've seen the video on TikTok where I spoke about how I used to work at a literary agency. I did a 3-month internship with one of the big literary agencies, maybe it was 4 months, in London back in, a long time ago now, 2000, I want to say 2007, 2008. And
I just think that was a long.
Yeah, it was long. It was
years.
And I don't know how different it is now in the literary agency and publishing industry, but at that point, they were getting thousands of brown envelopes full of people's manuscripts. Read this, and they had this cupboard that was just full of them, full to the brim of these brown envelopes. And while I was interning there, they hired someone whose job it was to reject all of them without reading them, because no one in the agency had any time to read them. Yeah, so they just got rejected outright.
You didn't even get a glance.
No, not even a glance. You got a glance if you directed your letter to one of the specific agents, and said, I've researched you. My book is the kind of thing that you like and you represent, and here it is. Yeah. Like, sure, they would look at it then. But if you sent in an unsolicited one, you pretty much had no chance of anyone looking at it. And that experience kind of stayed with me, and it was part of the reason why I went for self-publishing. Because that was in the back of my mind, and I started to think about how I was going to begin this publishing journey, and I came across, the 20 books to 50K Facebook group, and Mark Dawson and his SPF courses, and I was reading all the comments of all these, very successful indie authors, and I was like, wow, this is a real thing. Like, people are out there doing this for themselves and, making a real go of it. And I think we can see with the power of Book Talk and Bookstagram that there is so much potential out there to get your books in front of people. Yes, the marketing is tricky, and you're new at it, like trying to find your way through Book Talk, or how to make a video and how to get people to engage and try your book.
It's getting insane with the time.
Yeah. I mean, for sure,
it's people that use it.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, but it is possible, and there are so many examples of people who are doing it and doing it well and really making a career. So it was that combination of information that I had gathered that kind of led me to decide this was how I was going to try and do it. And for sure I had, I encountered people who would say things like, oh, you can't self-publish, why would you do that? It's not serious, it's not whatever. But I was prepared to ignore that.
Times have changed. It's not so much of a stigma anymore, and it's people accept now publishing is publishing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a good book is a good book, however it manages to get into the reader's hands, right? Although I would say there probably, my experience, that there are more hurdles as an indie author, just because you're trying to do everything yourself, especially when you start out. But yeah, it's all there for the taking. It's all possible. So I'm pretty positive about my experience so far.
That's why I started my publishing company, like to take the headache out of the publication, like the formatting and the editing and the cover design and the marketing and all that lot. It's like just take the headache so that the writer can enjoy being the writer,
Yes,
enjoy being the author.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because certainly when I started out, I was like, the thing I want to do is to write books. I don't want to design covers. I don't want, that's not what I want to do. And then suddenly you realize, if I'm going to do self-publishing, I'm going to have to find out ways of doing this, whether it's getting someone else to do
yourself.
bits I want to do. Yeah. And it's a really steep learning curve. And that's where, people like Mark Dawson and Craig Martell, they what they provide is incredibly helpful for someone who's, at the starting blocks thinking, what do I do now? I've written a book. What do I do with it? So there are so many people out there to guide you, to help you, people you can outsource to do the other things for you, the formatting, the book covers.
If I've just been a publisher, just a little bit sooner, I would have jumped right onto your books. I'd be like,
you'd never have known they existed, though. That's the kind of catch-22, isn't it? It's like, well, if I don't, if that's not how I'm doing it,
so I'm too late. Damn it.
Well, things always change. I'm always open to, other possibilities.
Bring it this way. Next series, bring it this way. We'll have you.
Thanks, that's so kind. But yes, it's fascinating. I think self-publishing is an amazing place to be at the moment. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and it builds up your skills as well, like having to learn new skills along the way. You now you can do this, that, and the other that you couldn't do beforehand.
Absolutely, yeah. Every time you try something new, it's like, wow, actually I could do that thing that I thought was impossible or really difficult. And then
it's easier each time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you're gathering momentum.
Yeah. Formatting's a headache, though. I think that will always be a headache.
Yeah, I used Atticus for my books, actually, and I thought it was pretty good.
That's a paid one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I had, who's it, Dave Chesson that developed it, and I bought it when it was still in beta, so before it had properly come out. Mm-hmm. So I think it cost me about £70. Yeah. But it took the headache out of it for me, for sure.
Yeah.
And I would have gone with Vellum if I had had a Mac, but I don't. So
yeah, I was using Google Docs, so I had to do it all manually.
Wow.
And one thing out of line, and you get blank pages. I've just seen it, and this is going to take me a week.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing that you have no idea about when you're sitting at home writing a book, thinking, I might self-publish it. It's like, well, how does a manuscript go to a book format? How does that even happen? And then you start to learn it all as you go along, and
and the distribution networks and getting the word out, and then the advertisements, and then getting it proofread and proof copies. Yes, but I love it. So it's like guys when I play the computer games, they get really frustrated, but at the same time they really love it and I want to keep going.
Yeah, it's got to be the passion that's going to drive you through, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if we're doing something that we really like, then we're not going to give up. And not giving up, I feel, is half of the battle to succeeding.
So what book are you writing at the minute?
So it does not have a title at the moment, but it is book 3 in the series. I'm always quite slow to come up with my titles, and I wish I were faster, because then I could forge on and get my book cover made. But this is really, in the drafting stage. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm really enjoying it, actually. I'm tying so much stuff together from the first 2 books. And as soon as I can decide on a title, I will get the cover made. And then that makes the whole thing easier, doesn't it? Because then you can show it on BookTok, on Instagram, wherever you're showing it. And you've got a kind of a visual for people to engage with and remember. So yes, it is book 3, and I think it's not going to be the last one. There are going to be more than 3 for sure.
It was like a longer story, does it?
Yeah, it feels like a longer story. Interestingly, like this book 3 probably takes me to the end of where I had my original manuscript. So this was, I mean, it's changed an awful lot since I first started, but it got chopped up into these 3 books. So this, by the end of this one, we're going to see much more of an arc of Kyla's character and where she's going and how she's grown. So that is pretty exciting.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was going to say something. It slipped my mind. I can just imagine someone just backspacing.
Shall I tell you what inspired it? That was one of your questions.
Yes.
What inspired my writing? So this particular story that's turning into this series has been with me for quite a long time, actually. I would say at least a decade. I went on holiday with my now husband to a little city. It was a medieval university town outside of Madrid. And it was called Alcalá de Henares. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong, but it was very beautiful. And the thing that made it really memorable for me was that on top of all of these ancient buildings were these huge birds' nests, like all around the entire city. And there were these big, I think there were cranes kind of flying in and landing on these buildings. And that just really captured me. And that was when I came up with the idea for, I don't know if you remember, there's the race of winged beings. They're kind of mythical in the stories at the moment, called the Nilari. And they're in the city, in the book, they make their nests at the top of the buildings. And then that came from Alcalá de Henares. So that was my inspiration. Very random, one small thing that you see can manage to turn into some great big elaborate story in your head. But that was the seed.
Yeah, see, my seed for the storm within was the school reunion, and it going very, 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 very wrong. And I was like, yeah, this could be a story.
As in your own school reunion, a real experience.
That was interesting. Oh, you'd expect like the usual school drama. Then everyone was like nice as pie, but the person that you didn't expect to go back to high school is actually the one that made the mockery. It's like, well, this has got story all over it.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a bonus to being a writer, hasn't there? If you can turn any kind of strange situation into a decent story, you take inspiration from everywhere. And I always think actually we get a lot of inspiration from our moments of awkwardness and pain.
Yeah. See, I'm quite paranoid as a person, so I'm constantly what if. So that's how I get a lot of my stories. It's what if, and then put the worst case scenario, and then make it worse. I'm like,
yeah, for sure. That's one of those things you come across all the time.
Worse, and they give it a really dark twist.
Yeah. What if? Just everything getting worse and worse and worse for our characters.
Yeah.
But it makes for a good read, so.
It does. At the moment, I'm writing book 2 to that, so it's going to be very interesting. I'm calling it Back for Blood.
And when do you think it'll be finished?
Oh, I'm hoping at the end of the month.
Oh wow, that's great. So how long will it take you to write a book from start to finish?
It generally takes me anything from 4 weeks to 4 months.
That's
all depends on the children.
I'd say that's very quick. Yeah.
It used to take me a lot longer. Some books do take me a lot longer because, like, the editing sometimes just takes me so much longer because I find little bits. I'm like, oh, that needs to be fixed, and then that part of the story structure needs to be fixed, and then like it's a bit weak on the other side, then I have to fix that. So like,
I've certainly found with the first one, it was very difficult to kind of let go, to stop that process. Because I have these meetings with my editor and I'd be like, I think I want to do this. Maybe the story is not good enough. Maybe this, maybe that. And she was like, at some point, you just need to let go because otherwise you will have no career. You'll just sit there fiddling with your editing and trying to make this perfect book when actually you're going to learn a lot more, a lot faster if you put it out there, let people react to it and then move forward. And I think looking back on it, I think that was really good advice because I could have sat there in a space of fear, afraid to put it out into the world, just tweaking tiny things and trying to make it better, rather than seeing the bigger picture and being like, well, if I put this one out, then I can write the next book, which will be better from what I've learned this time. But yeah, so I try not to let myself get sucked down into that kind of editing rabbit hole there.
How long do you give it from draft to edit? Like the waiting.
I don't even know if I have a gap. I'm not sure I have a gap. I kind of what tends to happen, the way that I do it is, I have my editor who's also a book coach, so we kind of do it hand in hand. So we'll I'll go away and try and construct this big messy first draft, and then I'll give it to her, and she will say, okay, right, let's divide this up into acts, act 1, act 2, act 3. Let's get the big events at the right point in the plot. And then I go away with what she's told me and rearrange my story as such, so that the pacing is falling in the right place. And I definitely have a tendency to want to tell a story in the way that we live, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. It's like, well, no, that's not going to work for a reader. Nobody wants to know what you did then, and then, and then, and then, and then. They kind of want to know what big thing happens, and then what everyone does in reaction to that, or they want to make people watch people make decisions, rather, instead of just following through on a chain of events. It has to be, each one has to be kind of impactful. So then I go back through the whole thing again, but I'm never really taking a pause between it. So I'll be writing, I'll have the scope of the whole thing, and then I'll be like, okay, if I can nail what happens in act 1, then I can move on to act 2, which will at that stage be still messy draft stage. But as long as I've got the events lined up in the first bit, then it's so much easier to continue.
Got your summary in front of you, so like what's going on, and which bits.
And it's so much easier to continue the rest of the book.
See, I set mine up as it's I outline as well, and I see it as like the goal, the conflict, the reaction, the disaster, and then bigger reaction, and then like the solution, and I set it up, the story up that way. So I know which points that way, what needs to work on. Like if there's not a big enough reaction, or the initial conflict isn't big enough, or the disaster isn't bad enough, work on those.
And then when you give it to beta readers and they're like, oh, this emotionally didn't work for me, like you're missing the mark or whatever, then I'll go back and try and fix it.
Yep, I use this too.
Planning your novel. I haven't seen that one. I have a lot of craft books, but that is not one I've seen.
Building templates to help plan the story. Like chapters, chapter descriptions. I've written that one.
Okay.
Like for the audio side of it. So key points of like conflict, reaction, solution, chapter descriptions. It also has in this book, right at the very end, a word count tracker, and writing events like the nanos, and ideas to beat writer's block.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and character sheets as well, which is like loads helpful.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty.
To write a story stuck in a book. So it's all in one place, and I have to find like hidden files to try and find out what I'm looking for. It just gets very messy.
Yes, my notes are all over the place. I don't make character sheets. I kind of try and keep it all in my head, which becomes very difficult when I'm trying to remember what color someone's eyes were. I'm like flicking through. Oh my goodness.
How can you keep them all straight?
I'm going to say something which sounds a little strange. Maybe as I grow as a writer, I might change this, but I kind of feel like I know who they are as people, you know, and I can see them in my mind. They're like real people to me. So I'm just like, oh, I'm writing about this person now, and obviously that's what they're going to do. But there are moments where I can't remember something like what color their eyes were, because to me it's more important that I get the feeling.
The characters are already fleshed out before you write the story.
Yeah. They feel like I know them, probably because I've thought about them so much without actually writing it down. But I'm not the most organized writer, so it's no surprise really that I don't have organized character sheets. It's kind of this strange organic process where everything just flows.
What do you do if you get writer's block? How do you battle motivation and writer's block?
I don't really get writer's block. I
don't believe you.
No, honestly, I very rarely find myself looking at a blank page not knowing what to write. I will just write anything. I'll just start. And the amount of words and scenes that I've probably cut out of my books is absolutely enormous. I could probably write a whole other series just based on what I've taken out. So I will write scenes, which is probably another reason why I end up feeling like I really know my characters, because I've made them do all sorts of things that no one will ever see. Possibly not the most strategic way to do it, but it works for me.
So I get days where like I know what's going to happen next. I know what should happen next. It's just finding the words, and like they'll be like blank, like no words. Like how do I make this happen? Then I have days when I've got no clue. It's just stopped. I'm like, yeah. So what happens next? Check the outline, and you get to the bits between the scenes. I'm like, yeah, I've got to bridge that together somehow.
Yeah, it does. I know what you mean there. Like, it does certainly feel a bit like sewing things together. When there are events, it's like, okay, so how do they go from this place to this place so that this thing can happen?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be difficult to make that happen seamlessly. I would say certainly since I've started writing books, I've become more aware of it when I'm reading books. You know, sometimes you're reading and you can feel where it's happened. You know, like, oh, or like I remember reading a book and feeling like a certain scene was hard to read, and not in a disturbing way. You know, in a kind of, this is not really enjoyable. I don't understand why it's here. I don't really know what the characters are doing here. And then I went to a talk with that author, and she raised that particular scene. And she said, I knew I had to create a scene where these two characters were going to become friends. You know, there had to be a scene in the book where they bonded so that we understood, you know, that they liked each other, that they, you know, had some experience and bonded over it. And it really struck me. I was like, she definitely didn't find that easy. And I could tell when I was reading it that it felt forced and unnatural. I mean, that's just one example. And it happens to be one where I then went to a talk with the author and heard her voice what I had felt when I read it. But I'm sure that there are numerous examples of that. And it's one of the pitfalls of becoming a writer. You start to notice things that you probably didn't when you were a reader.
So, my laptop is starting to give me hassle. It's lasted this long. Oh, such joys in life. It's fun being me. Oh, better. Right, I'm in my office now. Yeah, I've read books where where I've co-authored, and like sometimes you can't tell that it's been written by two different people. But there was this one book that like I could tell, and it was really jarring. It was like two completely different people had written the story and just like stopped halfway through the same. I'm like, yeah, I couldn't past 2 chapters. It was just that hard to read. It was jarring.
That's amazing. I don't really think I've read a book that's been written by more than one author. But I can think of some of the ones going around Book Talk that are really big at the moment, like the Zodiac Academy ones. And then I know other indie authors who are writing some romance books together, and they do it chapter by chapter. And I've been really intrigued to read it to see if I can tell. I guess it depends how they're working together, doesn't it? If they've got a kind of cohesive vision, then they should be able to pull it together. But if they're not communicating,
look at the James Patterson books. It's always like his name as well as another author laying along with it. It's like I usually like his books, but like this one, I just could not get past. I was just like, oh, So I was like, the editor must have like just gone through and just went, yeah, just leave it. It's fine. People won't notice much. But, yeah, I can't remember what book it's called either. But I know it's a James Patterson book. I'll have to dig it out by drop it below. But actually, no, I won't drop it below. I'll drop our books below. He's had his bit. No, I'm at my desk. Where's my book gone? Over here. Got a book coming out. Not my book, Majesta's book. You may have seen on TikTok.
I don't know if I have.
Majesta Dawn. Her book. That's coming out on the 10th. And she's really proud of that book. I published it for her.
That's so cool. Do you do the promo for her as well, or just the publishing?
Yeah, the promos. She promotes her books as well. But yeah, did the edit. I did the whole thing. So it's like, and I sent her the proof copy. She was over the moon with. So she was really happy. Check out a video. She's done a reaction video. I've seen it for the first time. She got so excited. I've also got another author that I've done. And it's her second book's coming out. Going for editing at the moment. Oh, I can keep it in my hands.
Oh yes, I've seen that one on your site, I think.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And my book is about somewhere. I must put it down somewhere. Where's it gone? One moment, I'll go and grab it. I can remember where I've put it. Oh.
Ta-da! Wonderful.
Yeah, I've tweaked the cover, but yeah, pretty good. I changed the font a little bit. But, so that comes out next week. I think 14th. So yeah, 4 days.
Oh, good luck. I hope it goes
well. 4 days. Oh my god. I still get excited. Overexcited.
It's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. You get excited for sure.
I let my high school know about that book last week as well. It's like, I didn't expect a reply back. It's been 20 years since I've been in school. No. Didn't expect a reply back. I got a reply back.
Awesome.
Inviting me back to the school to do a workshop and an assembly.
That's brilliant. I think that's really exciting.
And they're saying they're going to buy some copies for their school library. I'm like, great.
No, that's really cool. That's amazing.
So I was not popular at school. I'm thinking, yes, I want to go back to that traumatic building, of course. But
yeah, but it's different now. Yes, it's different now. It'll be great.
Yeah, oh, so still very exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. I'm much more comfortable publishing other people's books rather than mine and hype myself up. I'm like, yeah, I'll hype you up. That's fine. With me over there. Don't worry about me. Look at these ones over here. And I'll just do like your soft launch video, just like.
Oh yes, I think everyone when they start out wants to do that, don't they? It's because it's kind of cringy to start promoting your own book and making videos, and I just had to let that go. I was like, if I don't do it, no one is going to do it for me, so I'm just going to have to make stupid videos and see what happens.
Oh, your hard launch video made me crack up. I spilt my tea. It's like cracked me up. It's like, I love that. Get around in people's books, great. Hot launch. Oh, one of the best videos you've done. Just cracked me up. I spilled my tea for it, but it did crack me up. Like, I am using that. Just go around. What are you doing? Throw my book. What do you think? Oh, that is great though. So what have you got? Have you got any future books planned?
Oh, I have one that is half written, but it's not part of the series, so I feel like I can't write it now. You know, it would not be my wisest choice to focus my energy on doing a book that has nothing to do with the current series. But it's on the back burner. It's half written. I think it's good, but I don't know how it ends. So it's just going to wait until I finish this series, and then hopefully I'll know what I'm doing with it.
Completely different, or is it like a spin-off?
No, it's completely different. I mean, it's still kind of fantasy, but it's more like urban fantasy. And I actually don't really know how that kind of crossover works. You know, whether I set myself up as like a young adult fantasy author, whether it is okay to then produce an urban fantasy book.
Yeah, of course you can.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, of course you can.
Well, it's not quite the niche, though, is it? Anyway, we'll see what happens.
Urban fantasy is big right now.
Yeah, sure.
And paranormal romance as well is doing really, really well.
Yeah. I guess it's just expectations, reader expectations. The book they think that they're going to get from Rachael Watson, and this one that is in the background is not quite the same. But maybe I'll publish it under a different name.
Authors that do it. Terry Goodkind, he was like obviously he's passed now, but like I was a massive fan of his books. Like his Still the Truth series was really, really good. And then but he's also done like thrillers and stuff and other books, not just the fantasy. So you can you can go to like different genres. You know, and trying something new, isn't it? And it broadens your audience. So like, I like your writing style. What else have you got?
Yeah, that is true.
So I'll probably be doing a bit different after this series is done. This is going to be a series, 6-book series. I've already got the titles for them as well.
Oh, well, then you're more organised than I am.
The titles all like there was obviously a slight tweak of the first title I couldn't make my mind up on, but all the other titles, it's there. It's just ready to be written once I get to it. See, Back for Blood's got to be written first. Oh, so what's your hardest lesson that you've had to learn with the writing and publishing process?
The hardest thing for me, honestly, was probably joining TikTok and showing my face. I wanted to do the whole thing in secret. I think that's why I make those videos where I kind of mock the whole not wanting to be seen while you're promoting your book. And I know that there are authors that do it. You know, they don't show their face. They do it just with page flips, or they just show. But for me, that almost was more effort. You know, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to let go of this idea of being ashamed of what I've created or what I'm trying to do, or just own it. So that is what I've tried to do. And what I'm continuing to try to do, and I shall. I am waiting to see how effective it's going to be long term. But Maybe one day I'll try it differently. But that's certainly the fear of being seen, of letting people know that I had done this thing, I had created this world, written books.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing.
Yeah. What about your easiest? What was the easiest lesson that you've learned through the process?
The easiest lesson. The easiest thing was definitely writing the books. I like writing the books. That's where my joy is. That is really fun for me. So it's the easiest part. Maybe that's why I don't get writer's block. But yeah, the challenge for me is getting them out there and getting to know that they exist, getting people to read them. Yes.
So when your second book came out recently, which I did get as soon as it came out, as soon as I got paid. Do you want to tell the listeners what it's about?
The second book?
Yep.
So the second book is, well, I don't know if I can talk about the second book without spoiling the first one, but we're still following Kyla's journey to bring her acolyte back to Moria, back to the temple, so that she can take up her place in the sacred core. So we've got the first book sees her find the acolyte. The second book sees her bring this acolyte.
Yeah.
And on the journey, we kind of we see this kind of antagonist figure who is definitely rising up, going to become like a much bigger deal later on. So from that perspective, book 2 kind of increases the scope of the enemy and the hazards that they're going to have to face going forward. And book 3 will be them back in the city.
It is awesome. It is an awesome book.
Thank you.
I really wish that I'd signed you up and done my publishing earlier. It'd have been everywhere. Yeah. Oh. What about? I can think. Trying to think what else I had written down. I really should have put it in front of me.
I think I think we've mostly gone through all of the things that you sent me.
So I had it on a bit of paper and I can't remember when I'm done with it. So I'm so disorganized myself.
No, you've covered all of them. My plan for the future. My plan for the future is just to continue, keep going. I want to wrap up this series. I think this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
If not this year, next year, and then I will. When I start a new series, I'm definitely going to think about it more strategically in terms of the marketing, because I think if you know who you're marketing to, if you know what you're marketing, and if you can concisely convey that to your audience, it just makes selling the books so much easier. Whereas this time I did it slightly backwards. I made the book and then was like, oh, how am I going to sell it? So that is my plan.
Yeah, I think that was one of the lessons I learned as well. It's like promote the book before it's finished, so that people know it's coming. Rather than be like, I've done a book. I'm like, when? This first time I've heard of it. But yes, I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah, for sure.
Well then, I'm going to you're gonna tell people where to buy your book from?
Yes, Forbidden Healing and The Dream Key are both on Amazon. Forbidden Healing is on Barnes & Noble as well, on Waterstones. But The Dream Key is not yet, because I haven't got around to doing that. But I will. So yes, they're there. Go read them.
Awesome. And my future for my books, other than getting my books written and edited. So with my publishing company, I'm aiming to be bigger than Gryffindor. That's my end goal. I want to be bigger than Gryffindor and be like the main big publishing house that everybody knows about.
Awesome! Wow.
And do lots of have lots of authors, lots of books, and I'll be like, look, buy these books. I have loads. I will get there. People tell me I'm realistic, but I'll get there. It may take me decades, but I'll do it. And I'll be like, Gryffindor who? Who's Gryffindor? I'm like, exactly. That'll be the point. I'm like, yes, I'm now beginning Gryffindor. Right, do you have a website or anything that they can?
Yes, it's rachelwatson.com, so it's very easy to remember. It's just my name.
Nice. I'll add it to the description below and everyone can go and see and buy your books. And then once they're there, they can have a look at my website as well and buy my books. And also books that are on my website. Because there's loads. Right, so thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's all right. And we'll do this again.
Yes, for sure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And